In this video, I'll be explaining why NIO stock is worth $2 trillion. Not 1 trillion, but 2 whopping trillion dollars. Listen up, guys, because you don't know anything. All right. So where do we get the first $1 trillion? Well, of course, the billionaire founder of the famous antivirus company here in China, 360, said it all. NIO's battery swap service is going to take over, and this is going to be more important than selling cars for NIO. NIO has already partnered up with over 10 other companies, some automobile companies, some state-owned government companies, but overall, these are hugely profitable for NIO. NIO not only gets a lump sum payment for these companies that use NIO's battery swap, but also royalties for every car that they build subsequently. And then on top of that, NIO gets a sliver of money from every battery swap that happens. So here we have a huge amount of money that NIO is going to be getting in by sharing battery swap with the partners. So this is how NIO gets the first $1 trillion valuation. NIO is going to be the de facto standard for battery swap here in China. Okay, but how does NIO get the second $1 trillion valuation? Where's the second trillion coming from? Well, at the auto show here in Beijing, I took a quick glimpse at where the second $1 trillion valuation comes from. Have a listen.
This is going to be worth trillions, all right? This is, of course, NIO's main control chip for LiDAR, the NX6031. Take a look at that. Absolutely beautiful, all right? Look at how small that is. That's my thumb for comparison. It's like the size of my thumb. And this is equivalent to 4 Orin X chips, all right?
That's right, guys. It's NIO's self-developed 5-nanometer chip automotive-grade processor with over 50 billion transistors, and they've spent a lot of money making this, and they are basically the best chip on the industry. First autonomous big little 32-core CPU. It is the fastest automotive-grade LPDDR5X with 8,533 megabits per second processing speed, concurrent process for perception, planning, and control, cabin, and computing. Less than 5 millisecond processing speed, 75% faster than the industry standard today, capable of 6.5 billion images processed per second. ASIL D, highest safety standard. There's calculation sharing, combination of vehicle and cloud to make the chip even more powerful. 1,000 plus functional safety designs, and up to 6.5 times faster than any other chip on the market today. Just this one chip is equivalent to 4 of NVIDIA's Orin X chip, which NIO's vehicles currently have. NIO's vehicles currently have 4 Orin X chips. And NIO CEO has also said this is extremely expensive for NIO to buy so many of these chips from NVIDIA. In fact, NIO's sales, all right, NIO takes up 40 to 46% of NVIDIA's Orin X chip sales. And this is a big expense, so they built this chip. Now, the $1 trillion possibility occurs because this chip is cheaper than NVIDIA's, but 4 times faster. The possibility happens when it comes to perhaps licensing technology. A lot of auto manufacturers here in China use NVIDIA's Orin X chip. IM Motors, Zeekr, just to name a few, but a lot of other guys use those chips. Now, if NIO's chip is faster but also cheaper, it would be a fantastic alternative to NVIDIA's Orin X chip. First of all, saving them money, but for NIO, of course, this means that they get huge amounts of royalties and straight up lump sum payments for licensing the technology. NIO, in essence, is also NVIDIA. They're faster than NVIDIA. And the $1 trillion opportunity comes when you see these kind of bans that the US does, chip bans. You're not allowed to sell AI chips to China. Sanctioning companies, ASML from these chip processing equipment, chip manufacturing equipment. They're not letting that sell in China. You can't buy those in China. And if NVIDIA gets sanctioned and say, hey, you're not allowed to sell chips to China, then this is pretty much forcing these Chinese automobile companies to adopt NIO's chips. All right, even if we don't see any sort of dramatic measure like this, we could still see NIO start selling chips, become essentially like NVIDIA, and just dominate the automobile market. Every single car in the future, all right, may potentially use battery swap, and they may also potentially use NIO's chips. In this essence, all right, NIO's chips are actually number one in China. All right, they're number one in China. They're even better than Huawei. Huawei's chips, 7 nanometers, NIO's 5 nanometers, even better than Huawei. NIO spent so much money doing R&D developing this, and they have succeeded in producing something that is just monumental. All right, this thing, the name of this chip in Chinese is called Shenji, also called the Godship if you directly translate it, or God muscle. All right, I think that's more suitable. God muscle, yeah. And clearly, NIO investors, short sellers, institutional investors have not valued this into their valuation of NIO stock. NIO is essentially NVIDIA. All right, maybe not on that scale yet, but their chips are faster and more capable, cheaper, but also sanction resistant. And in that essence, their biggest domestic competitor is, of course, Huawei. Their biggest international competitor, of course, NVIDIA. But this gives the whole entire market a great opportunity to purchase in on one of these chips, license NIO's AD chip, and license God muscle. Get some of that God muscle in their cars. This is just going to be huge. NIO's going to be hugely profitable by selling these chips to competitors. Now, you don't need me to tell you, but shorts are screwed. We are in the midst of a short squeeze, and the shorts are absolutely doomed. As always, guys, stay safe, stay healthy. Let's squeeze the shorts, and peace out.